If everybody is ready, I will call. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to call the regular council meeting of September the 28th to order. And I'd just like to, before we go to the approval of the agenda, I'd like to inform people that if you have a question, you can submit it now in to info@cumberland.ca using subject line question period. And you can prepare your question at any time and submit it. It will not be answered until question time. Okay? Because sometimes we're sitting for quite a while waiting for people to submit questions. This way it can give them a heads up. They don't have to wait until I say, send your email now. Okay, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes.
Move adoption.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Receipt of committee and commission member minutes for information.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Next, we have that council received the delegation of Corby Johnson, President, and Jason Kurluk, Vice President, Coal Hills BMX, to provide an update.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Welcome, Corby and Jason. Welcome to our meeting. And I understand you're going to give us an update on the BMX track.
Yes, we are. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, please do.
I did find an adjustment on the mic. So yes, so we are here to give you an update on the Coal Hills BMX Association, its operation, the membership, and also ask for your renewal of the license of occupation. So before we get too deep into that, we'd like to share a video with you. Just a quick one.
Okay.
And hopefully it'll work. And
Very well done.
hopefully you're able to see that and hear it and stuff.
Yes.
Good. We wanted to give you a little feel of what that was, what the BMX track and the BMX community is about, and hopefully that encompassed it fairly well.
It
So,
certainly.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to move on to giving you an update of kind of where we are at as an organization. What I'd like to start with is basically, unfortunately, what I'm going to present to you is our 2019 condensed version of our president's report, as 2020 has had its challenges. But so we're on pause like everyone else. So over the 2019 season, we ran 23 races starting on April 20th. Our first race, we had 90 riders and 20 motos, and our last race was 54 riders and 16 motos. We had 136 members at Coal Hills with an average of 67 riders attending per race. 74 renewals, 21 balance bikes, which are the little guys, 41 new riders last year. And of these riders, about a quarter of them are from Cumberland. Our biggest classes are the 5 and under novices. That's where we see our growth. And our 10 experts is the next largest class. So over the last year, we set our sights on many ambitious goals, all with the intent to improve the safety of the facility, the race environment, and a positive experience for the rider and their family. We did a lot of fundraising, and in 2019, we had an exceptional year for our fundraising with a clear goal to raise enough capital to proceed with the installation of our new safety gate. We were able to exceed our minimum requirement and have enough also to replace the starter shed and include a timing system for the riders. This was accomplished with major corporate donations by Georgia Strait Refrigeration and Solomon Sable Environmental, as well as membership fundraising through bottle drives and individual donations. We also raised $1,000 for the Aidan Weber Legacy Fund. He was a local Coal Hills rider and a potential Olympic athlete who died in a workplace accident at the age of 17. Also, we raised $3,000 in our Race for Life, which was donated to the BC Children's Hospital. So about the track, our goal is to have a challenging and fun race course for all skill levels and the best racing surface of any BMX facility. We strive for this through continuous improvement with feedback from the riders and by observing what other facilities have done well, and then do our best to execute that here at Coal Hills. In 2019, at the request of our riders, we undertook a major, extensive and complete rebuild of the rhythm section, as well as elevating the flat areas of the first straight to improve drainage. With the funding in place to proceed with the start gate replacement, we completed demolition and removal of the old gate and are well on our way with the installation of the new safety gate, which we'll talk about that a little later. We have a loaner bike program. We have built on our program and have added 5 more bikes, a couple more this year, that range in size from Running Thunder, which are the little guys, all the way up to expert bikes. The bikes were purchased from various sources and averaged around $200 each. The goal is to have race bikes available for any rider, new or old, that are suited for racing. We've also added a new full face small helmet to the group. We have rider development. So over the last couple of years, we've been working on a way to develop our riders. We have tried various things, including a coaching session during open gate practice, which although was well attended, lacked focus and discipline for many of the riders, which made it difficult to effectively run drills. There was also self-coaching with a list of prescribed drills that are posted for the riders to accomplish. And starting last year, by far the most successful program was Jason Kurlak's Grit Coaching. It is for advanced riders and focuses on conditioning, skills, and racing tactics at the track. In addition, it was recognized the need for mini grit for the younger riders, and this evolved to be led by riders of the older grit practice. We had 2 Crow clinics by Hunter McGill and Tori Nyhog. Both were well attended with very different styles and excellent coaching and training for our riders. But then also we have our Coal Hills team, the community, and really it's our Coal Hills family. And this area of growth is one of the most rewarding and important to me as president. Our goal is to be welcoming, inclusive, and supportive to all. It's especially rewarding to hear from the other tracks on the island and around BC that we are doing a great job. They inspire to be like Coal Hills. They ask us how we get so much support from our volunteers and how do we create that community feel. Can't answer specifically what's in our special sauce, but our fellow racers, tracks, and families seem to love it. One of the ways we promote Coal Hills community is with our camping weekends at the track. We focus on fun with activities like open mic night and outdoor big screen movies. Our special events that are all about fun, like the Easter egg extravaganza with our special guest, the Easter Bunny. And we run a pumpkin race at the end of the year. And we also have an unforgettable nighttime glow stick laps of terror. And watching those kids go around in the dark with glow sticks on their bike is terror. I believe these events that are welcome all, encourage fun, are the key to the success. We work hard and play hard. So when we look to the future, we're going to start, and we're talking about starting this year with our new safety gate and starter shed. We continue to look at other projects that include track lighting and a new moto shed. And we look forward to what next year brings. So that was last year. And now what it's brought is COVID in 2020. So what we have done is we did accomplish installing our safety gate. And our costs were nearly $30,000 for the equipment and materials. And then as well, we had about 20,000 of in-kind donations. And we have by far the best starter gate and start hill in BC. And we are super proud of that accomplishment. It's amazing what we have. So this year we started off with not starting off. We had to wait and start and figure out what we were going to do about COVID. And this is where I'll hand over to Jason. He was instrumental in developing our COVID plan, which allowed us to get back to practice and racing.
Yeah, so when COVID hit, nobody really knew what was going on, and we knew that if we could provide a safe place for the riders to be and to participate in the sport, we knew it would be great for them and the community and everybody around. So we talked to Island Health, Berks APC, we talked to numerous other tracks in the province who, started doing the same thing that we were trying to do. We were one of maybe 5 tracks in the province that got practices going. We eventually started racing as well. So again, we looked to Island Health, Works APC, BMX Canada, and a few others to make sure we're doing it proper and safe and following the right steps. We had a strict guideline for our volunteers, for the parents, for the students, for the riders, and everybody followed it to a T. There were no real issues. We laid it out, and it was a success. And again, like Corby said earlier, there were other tracks that were following our strategies to get their tracks up and running, and we worked together and collaborated with them as well. So we were pretty happy with how we got BMX back going during this time, and we helped other tracks progress to this as well. We continued with the coaching, and with that, we coached the elite kids, but we got the elite kids to coach the younger kids, and they really enjoyed it as well. BMX is one of those weird sports where the only coaching they get is practice time, and they just go out and ride themselves. And it seems a bit weird. You wouldn't do that in hockey and say, okay, 20 kids out there go and play, go and practice. And so that's the weird part. And so we brought in this bit of structure and coaching, and it's shown great results and given the riders, things to work at and help progress if they want to progress. It's not mandatory, but it's available, and not a lot of tracks have that. So we're really proud of that too.
Something I think that's worth mentioning is that Coal Hills consistently ranks in the top of BC, both in provincial racing and at nationals. We have a great group of really elite athletes, from the little guys all the way up to the big ones, and we constantly shine. So we represent very well. And a lot of that is thanks to Jason's coaching program, which a lot of really no other tracks have a sort of a dedicated in-house track coach. So we're very lucky to have that. Moving on from that, we should talk about the license of occupation a little bit. the license itself was reviewed with the village staff, and it was pointed out that through our discussions that one concern was that we should address and bring up with the group, just so you're aware, is that we do a winter closure of the facility, and it was suggested that I clarify what we've been doing and what we would like to continue to do. So usually sometime in November, we put the track and the facility to bed. We winterize the building, we board up the windows and doors, everything gets cleaned out and kind of, put away at that time. And at that time, we also lock up all of the gates that go onto the track racing surface. And this is to prevent the exaggerated deterioration of the racing surface by any riders. And that time of year, it'd be mountain bikers and in the winter months, when the track is soft and wet, it just does a lot of damage. And the other part of that is it's also not a safe time to be on the track at all. Normally, we wouldn't race during wet conditions at all because the track gets safety concerns. The track gets slippery and dangerous. And in the interest of preserving the track and the safety of any riders that would be out there, we usually keep it closed until late February when we start the track maintenance again. And then from that point on, the track is back open to the public. And really, it's our main objective to have the track open to the public. But during that specific time, I think it's in everyone's best interest to keep it closed down so that the track is preserved and the risk of injury to anybody using it is mitigated as much as possible. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Well, we're going to go around the table and see if there is any questions. Councillor Sullivan.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Yeah, that was a great video, and really impressive, the numbers that you guys are pulling out, frankly, financially and just with the bodies. I didn't know that the little guys, the balance bikes, I didn't know they were that small.
They are.
It's like those things are kind of new. I think they weren't around when we were growing up, and gets people going way sooner, like by years, I'm sure. Anyway, yeah, just I have one question. What is a moto?
A moto is an actual race. So when
Okay.
you, at the end of the video, you saw the kids lined up and the start gate dropped and they raced away, that would be
Yeah.
considered a moto. So
Nice.
every group of kids that races, they, instead of calling it a race, they call it a moto. That's just the structure of how they describe it.
Right on. One question is, so is that normal practice that you guys, that it shuts down the BMX track all winter?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's probably smart.
So
Yeah.
normally we show up once a week.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you. You're not close enough to the mic.
Sorry. Just to clarify, once a week we show up at the track and run a practice, which means dropping the gate, having people on the track for safety first. And then other than those practice times, it's open to the public to just ride and the gate stays down.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, thanks. Keep up the good work, you guys.
Thank you.
Councillor Sproul?
No, I'm just very impressed at what's going on. I did know that that the track was built at the beginning for national, international standards. So they've just kept going and proving what they're up to. So thanks for providing that. That's excellent.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Hi, thanks. That was really great. I miss BMX sometimes. So my question is, you mentioned you've got awesome numbers turning up for races, and that about a quarter of those riders are from Cumberland. So the nearest track is still Qualicum, yes? Or is there one in Campbell River now?
Do you want to speak to that?
Racing.
Yeah, you're right. The closest one is Parkville. There's not one in River.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You
Yeah,
know, you have to move closer in.
okay.
You're
The
good.
closest track is Parkville, but a lot of people that do attend from the other three is, Courtney, Campbell River, and some south as well. We have a lot of riders that come from all the way south for the tracks that come up for us.
Awesome. And my other question is around signage. So when the track closes for the winter, do you have signage that goes up that says we close for safety reasons, please don't go on the track because you'll wreck it? I see how much work has gone into the track in the last few years and it looks really great. Congratulations on the gate. I know that was a long time coming.
Yeah,
So
it was.
good work, but I'm just wondering if a big sign that explained why and how might help that maintaining the winter closure, you know?
We do have signs that we put up that indicate that the track is closed. And I'm just trying to, I haven't looked at them lately, but I believe it indicates for safety and for
Okay.
the racing surface.
Awesome.
We do.
Thank you.
Councillor Kettler?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I'm really happy about the new gate. I did have parents come to me and express concern about the old gate and safety issues with that. So I think that's awesome that we have this amenity here and that you guys are taking such good care of it. And I think you guys have a really good community, a really good membership. And I think that's going to go a long way in helping you through the COVID. If everybody is adhering to protocols and following the rules, then you should be able to get back to racing and having fun. So here's one for that one.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation. You did an excellent job. And I will say that the little ones watching them race is an inspiration to everyone. It is so much fun to watch them. They're so enthusiastic. And usually the parent is running along beside them, the little ones. And so it is fun to watch. And also, as your organization has developed and grown, you've done an amazing job by keeping the track going to the standard that it started out to be. And I'm sure Rick Grinham is still grinning from ear to ear at what he put forward those many years ago. And congratulations on dealing with COVID. You are an example of how to make it work. I always say that there's no problems that you can't complete as long as you have the interest of the people there and the heart in it. So thank you very, very much. And we would love to have you more often than once every 5 years.
Well, you know, sometimes
know
an
it gets-
invitation doesn't hurt.
Yes. So congratulations. Well done. And
Thank
let your organization know that we are really pleased with how you're treating the track and how you're following the rules. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think you will be removed by Rachel. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, there's no unfinished business. Correspondence. Recommend that council receive the grant funding opportunity number 2 dam rebuild report.
Move receipt.
Seconded.
All in favor? Carried. Rob, Manager of Operations.
Can you see me?
Yes, we
Hey,
see
Rob.
you.
All right. Hello, everyone. So just a quick update on funding and the number 2 dam project. And then we'll get see where council wants to go with this. So back in November 2018, you guys provided a resolution in support of a grant application that staff submitted in early 2019. At that time, the grant project, it was around 3.2 million, I think, is what we applied for grant funding under the same ICIP, Rural and Northern Communities Grant Program or intake. We weren't successful, so in March of this year, we got a letter and notification for the province that we weren't successful. They have now opened up another intake for second round. And we are preparing documents and getting ready for grant application, which includes a council resolution to support the grant application. So right now we're working with the consulting engineer on refining there's a final summary report and the costs, and we have to fill out an actual spreadsheet with the cost breakdown. Right now, it looks like it's around 4 to 4.2 million. That's based on some of the additional work and technical memos and studies that we've done in this last year. So as council's probably aware, the Ministry of Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations asked us to do the creek remediation, and so we've got like $1 million budget in there for that remediation. Now there may be some funding, and this is where a grant writer comes in handy. That you can see in the report, staff are recommending we use a grant, or we will be using a grant writer this year to assist us. But there's some environmental funds, and maybe Clayton can kind of chime in. I can't remember what exact program this is through UBCM, but there's funding available up to $750,000. And so we may look at securing some funding specific to the remediation of the creek, which would then complement or reduce the amount we asked for through the ICIP program. So that's still to be determined. Tonight, really what I'm looking for, what staff are looking for, is a support from council for the grant application itself.
Okay. We will go around the table with questions. Councillor Spruill?
Yeah, I'm really still very excited about the potential of creating power from our water system. So it sounds like we have a chance of getting those funds, and that there's multiple sources. So yeah, I would say you should definitely be pursuing that course of action and getting a professional writer, because that really works usually.
Just to add some clarification if I can. So this particular application won't include the actual hydroelectric station or the penstock. It'll include the intake, and this is what we did last year. We included the intake and a short section of the penstock so that we're ready in the future. There's no opportunity right now to generate and sell hydro back to BC Hydro. So we have to look at some different avenues. We have to look at the cost benefit ratio, stuff like that. So, but we definitely want to make sure we're prepared as part of this project for that ability.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I was going to ask if we might include as one of the other grants that you've mentioned, the net metering project, but I guess we can do that separately. So you need a motion to approve this grant, and then we can look at net metering at a later date. Is that sort of the plan? When we spoke to the Minister of Mines, they did say that that was a possible route. We wouldn't be selling it back to hydro, but we would be generating power for our own use up to a certain limit.
The challenge with that is you're spending $2.75 million to build a penstock and a hydroelectric generation unit. So there has to be some work. You have to look at the payback, right? Versus the capital cost. And the net metering, you barely make any money, is my understanding right now, versus the standing offer program that Hydro used to sell or purchase power under. So there's a bit of work. There's a bit of work and analysis and trying to look for grant funding opportunities. Again, Clayton might be able to weigh in this, but I don't think that the current programs that the province or the federal government have out fit for this hydro generation. At least that's what I understand from the grant workshops I've attended.
Clayton, do you want to?
Yeah, just to thank you. Yeah, I guess the plan would be at this point in time, what we're just looking for is this ICIP application, because it is quite a complicated application, and it's going to take us a few weeks to go through this. The other two grants, or the one grant that the manager of operations was mentioning, is one that will come before you at a later date. Like right now, this is a priority one that we need to get complete, and then we're doing some work right now on what those other ones look like. So we'll bring that back to council for consideration, and that may through our analysis look at that net metering as well. So there's a couple of factors that we're certainly looking at, and we've spoken to our grant writer about how those fit, and so they're looking to incorporate them all. But right now, the based on this being a strategic priority at council, this is the one that we want to recommend moving forward with at this time.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to support. I just don't want to lose that opportunity, even if it's just generating power for ourselves. And I quite like the combination of the restoration grant working with the ICIP grant. So go for it. Get the money.
Councillor Kettler?
Yeah, I definitely support getting a grant writer and getting the help you guys need to get in a really good application. I think that's pretty key. I think that we could probably work on the one funding source when we're talking about remediation, and kind of work on including the hydro generation, just because you're taking the energy out of it by taking away that head pressure. So we're looking at stopping erosion further down the line. So I think that could be sort of a way to approach it, is that yes, we're creating energy, but we're also working hard to control that water and the spill, and removing that energy that's going to be causing erosion. So I don't know, whoever we get to do that grant writing, maybe they can look at that angle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councillor Sullivan.
Sorry. Yeah, well, just a question on piggybacking on a Councillor Kettler there. Will that affect our grant application if we try to dilute it with the hydro, with that secondary grant, Rob?
Yeah, my understanding is, last time we scored well in our grant application, but it was oversubscribed like 4 times. So when I spoke with the province last year, they said, you really need to keep your project smaller in scope. They'd like to spread around as much money as possible. So, I mean, that's what we're struggling with this time again, right? The project is increasing costs, and we're trying to figure out how we can entice the province to, give us $3 or $4 million. So I think, if you add the hydro, it bumps the project up to over 7 million. And I don't think that'll fly based on the amount of money available under this Rural and Northern Communities program.
Yeah. Yes, personally, of course, I'm fingers crossed with the grant for the dam, but I don't think I would support putting the hydro in there. I mean, the minister meetings definitely seems no one's interested in giving us that money. We're trying to help us out right now with hydro. So if that puts a risk to that other grant, then I don't support that. But yeah, support the grant writer. Absolutely. Best of luck for us.
Thank you very much, council members. I do agree with Councillor Sullivan. I don't want to put this in jeopardy. We've already tried once and we're unsuccessful, and we need to give it all we can on this round, because we don't want to be applying again next year. If we can get it simplified and get it done, that's very important. So you have the motions there in front of you. What is your pleasure?
I'll move that council direct staff to submit an application for grant funding for the number 2 dam rebuild through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Rural and Northern Communities. and the council supports the project and commits it to its share of the project costs, which would only include costs not covered under the program or cost overruns beyond the project costs applied for, as this grant program under the Rural and Northern Communities intake is for 100% funding.
Seconder?
Second.
Councillor Scribble? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Next, recommend that council receive the child care inventory and space creation update reports dated September 21st, 2020.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll just start this out. I know Kaylin is here as well. I guess I'll start out by just starting with the fact that obviously recognizing childcare spaces are an important part of this council's strategic priorities, and it's something that's been worked on for the last year, at least in the sense of the childcare space creation plan. However, we definitely had a little bit of a challenge through the March period with COVID, to keep this sort of project rolling. We saw a lot of closures in the sense of I'll call it suspended services for a number of childcare schools and other activities there. So as staff, what we have done here is we've been spending the last month and a bit here working on how to get this process back and moving forward. And so the report you have before you is one that outlines a number of steps that we are feeling are priorities that are coming out of the actual plan that was received by council back in, I believe it was January or February of this year. The other aspect I just wanted to mention is that what we've created is a bit of a subcommittee with staff here. So we have members from our planning, obviously our economic development, as well as recreation and community services that have been meeting regularly to talk about what this looks like. So it's from the staff's perspective, we're trying to look at this as a cross-departmental view to find, because there's an economic driver to this. There's the community services side, and there's also partnerships. There's a lot of aspects to this, and not one side will solve the problem that I think that we're faced with. The other fact is some of the numbers certainly that we heard back in January. We're not saying that they've changed, but things have changed a lot. There's a lot of people that we've been speaking to that maybe are, keeping their children at home now rather than, it was a year ago where they were seeking that childcare. So things are evolving very quickly. But at the end of the day, we know there's a real need for childcare spaces in the community. So we're happy to, answer any of the questions relating to the report there. One of the aspects that is submitted as part of the report there is a project proposal from the group there, Weird Church. They have submitted the proposal for council's consideration. I know this project was looked at previously, and it certainly is something that staff have had a look at. We've had a conversation with the ministry, and there's some value to this project. What staff are though recommending is the application that would come from the village would probably be best looked at if it was one that was on either village property or a site that would be able to utilize the full $3 million to expand. But we do recognize that the Weird Church proposal is one that does have a lot of value to it, but it may be something that a conversation needs to happen in relation to what that looks like at the end there. So the other aspects related to, we've had some dialogue with the school district, some business partners within the community, and there is some eagerness and interest to look at some ways of actually expanding. But there's a lot of work to this, to be honest. This is a big project, and one that we're realizing needs a lot of effort. You need a lot of partnerships here, because this isn't a service that we as a village are providing, but we're trying to support and find partners that will be able to help provide it. So it's exciting, but it's also it's a long term. You watch how the province is going through this right now. It can't be solved overnight, and so we're, from staff's perspective, we're looking at a very long term but sustained focus on this, so that we can get as many spaces that are going to be able to be there for the long term. And so we believe, some of these options that we're recommending are a starting point for that. So maybe I'll pass it over to our economic development officer if he has any comments before we open up to questions, if I missed anything.
No, thanks, Clayton. Mayor, Council, good to be in front of you again. Just reiterating what Clayton said, I think this exercise was looking at the funding opportunity for the village right now, and that's through the share expansion program through the government, and then taking our child inventory and our action plan and looking at what opportunities best suited for us to be able to obtain that funding. And so that's the report in front of you. That's why I think there's 6 recommendations, as Clayton is saying. There's a broad scope of ways of going around how we can achieve these goals. The spaces, the inventory action plan, it says we need 270 spaces, and that's more than one building. And so we've hopefully outlined, we have groups like the Weird Church who are willing to step up and bring solutions to us. And so we certainly want to advocate on those types of ideas. And then certainly we want to make sure we put it through a lens of what's best for the interests of our community. So I'm happy to answer any questions or go through the recommendations if you think that would be helpful.
Thank you. I think we'll go through questions first, and we'll go right around the table with everybody speaking. So first is Councillor Kettler.
Yeah, I'm glad that we have options, right? That we've got some things to look at and say, yeah, let's pursue that. The Weird Church, I do have a few concerns about us putting forward that grant, being that it's not our property, it would be a lease. There'd be limited access to the public, and that their amount was 25% over what the grant funding was asking for. I think it was $40,000 per child, and they're asking $50,000. So there's a few concerns with that, but I absolutely support a letter and trying to advocate for them separately from the village application that we might do with the school or through some other village-owned asset. But I think that I'm happy to have staff explore all those options that we have before us today. Thanks.
Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, I'm right along with Councillor Kettler. I have the same feelings about partnering with Weird Church. I think there's just too many variables, and also, as we all know, our capacity these days is pretty stretched out. As well, we need to deal with this, and it's not really a municipal issue, or hasn't been. But now, just watching the communities kind of rally around and reading about Comox is encouraging. So yeah, I'm supportive of all these options to flesh out what we can do to try to sort it out.
Thank you. Councillor Spruill?
Yes, I'm interested. I thought I remembered back to the time when we talked about a partnership with Weird Church, or we mentioned it. Was that back like in November last year? But I know I had expressed my concerns about that then, and I thought other members of council, so I was somewhat taken aback to see that it had been fleshed out. Because as far as I can see, the Village of Cumberland would be helping a private organization receive funds from the government and then lease back the space. Is that legal, that the village could help one organization without putting it out to tender? Because there might be other churches in Cumberland or businesses that would, or individuals who would like that kind of support from the village. I'm just not sure. I think that would get us into some trouble. like favorite, not opening it to the general public. And the people, I know 2 or 3 of my friends now have worked their own businesses with preschools to get them, but they haven't had any support. They've done it with their own ends. So anyway, this has somewhat disturbed me actually, that it could be just one business or a landowner that we were getting involved with. So
Well,
anyway, that's all I have to say about it, but I
I'll
don't
just
want to.
make one comment. When it was presented to council, we asked, because we were in flux, we didn't really know. We said that we would have to investigate it further. Now staff have investigated it further and said, these are the problems that will arise if that was to happen. So that's the clarification of what that initial meeting was about. We didn't have answers to a lot of the questions that we had. And staff has answered those questions.
But that would have been allowable to be able to just have work with one group to try and move ahead their project. Would that have been legal from a municipal point of view?
Yeah,
I'll let Clayton.
yeah. It is a great question. So from the program standpoint, things have changed. They're evolving very quickly. So when I mean program from the province's standpoint, things are shifting each intake, and the very beginning, this I think is the second year out of a 5-year plan that they're doing. So we're going to see this same intake for a number of years. So their plan is to continue, but they are shifting each year. And so some of the things that were a year ago when it was being looked at are much different than they are now. From the program standpoint, they don't have concerns how that is set up. They've been clear with us that, you can enter into a lease. It does not, it can be on not village owned property. So that is, they don't have a concern with that. However, from the village's perspective, it is best for us to follow those practices of opening it up to some sort of RFP, allowing an expression of interest. So from the program standpoint, they don't have that restriction, but from our end, it would be considered a process related of an open expression of interest. And that's similar to what is being presented in some of these options where maybe there's a development and we would say, is there an expression of interest, and put that out there for the greater, development community to bid, similar to what's happened in other jurisdictions. So hopefully that answers the question. The program doesn't have concerns, but from our end, yes, we would want to ensure that's,
Pleased to hear that. I just have a couple of things here. I'd love to be able to do it the way the town of Comox did, getting funds from UBCM to buy commercial space and then have a non-profit run it. I mean, that would be the cleanest thing that I would prefer. But since I don't know how they got the money from UBCM, I'm sure staff has looked into that. I do support trying to work with School District 71 if we could get some kind of facility on their grounds, because it would make it so convenient for the parents to be able to just bring their kids before school and before they go to work. But of course, we have to recognize that they might not have the space. And we have that little bit of land next to the school properties too that we traded. But the village property, that excites me the most, that maybe where we want to have a new field house. If we could access some of that monies to have a new field house that could also be used as a daycare, it would really benefit us in many, many ways. And and using a modular building, we have the manufacturer in Cumberland of modular buildings. So if we could run it that way, that would be the best way to see. But I do understand what you said, Clayton. It is taking a lot of staff time. The reports and all the inquiries are very detailed. So I thank you for that. But yeah, we don't have a lot of staff time. So what about empty places like the cultural center, and are the seniors using the room below? Like, is the cultural center and the seniors building being fully occupied right now?
Those are going to be considered at the same point in time. Yeah. So at this point in time, we are exploring options both in existing facilities as well as other partnership facilities that could be looking. So I think one of the things that we have spoken about as a team would be similar to what we talked about earlier. The province has made it clear that you can apply for the funding without having a firm operator in place, and so we can apply for a project that we feel is valuable and reasonable, and the process relating to the operator could be done through another expression of interest or RFP. And so that piece doesn't have to be secured. Right now, they're comfortable with they're looking at the overall plan and the operator. But what we want to do is make sure that prior to doing that, we have a really strong business case that would allow it not be a cost to the village, and someone who'd be able to come in there and utilize the space and provide that service there. So there's a few aspects there, but the cultural center is certainly a site that we'd want to explore further and have already started looking at a little bit right now.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Yeah, I have similar concerns about the Weird Church proposal, specifically that it looks very similar to the first application, which is an enormous project that will need lots of variances, and so I don't want to put us in a conflict situation. I would want to know a little bit more. So I think what we have in our package is their proposal to partner with us on the Weird Church. So if we were going to write a letter, I think the letter would be in support of something different than that. So I would want to see what we were writing a letter in support of before I say, yeah, let's write a letter of support. Because it's unclear to me right now, if we don't partner with them, they're not eligible for the 3 million. So this project is going to have to change scope somehow. So let's see what that scope is before we write a letter. Yeah, I know that we can use some funding to purchase land, and since we are land poor, that would be strategically smart of us. But I also think that in our meeting with the Minister of Education, he did mention childcare, and if we can use that as another piece of the expansion of Cumberland School, and that helps that expansion get approved because we're adding childcare, I think that puts it kind of at the top of our list because we need both those things kind of ASAP. But I also really like the idea of Village Park location and the field house combine, and also Lake Park, although travel to and from would be a thing we'd want to look at, and also winter operations. So yeah, I would say school district, Village Park, or cultural center, if we can get them in there to, right away, that'd be awesome.
Okay, thank you very much for members of council. My opinion is Weird Church, I would support them if it was just for a daycare, like any other organization, not any commitment to accessing more funding. I think we as a municipality, you can use that funding in different venues and not put it all into one venue. I would also completely support the school district and working with them on a solution for both of them and for us. Childcare on village lands. I really do not support the property on Beaufort. That land, when we received that land, it was for a park. And so to me, it would be stay apart. There's enough other locations to me that are our priority over that one. And I would leave that one to the last. If nothing else worked out, then I would maybe look at it. But I think that's really important for future for it to be saved as the park. I really like a lot of the ideas and I look forward to this. I think it's a very exciting to actually be able to do something for childcare in the village, because 257 spaces is a tremendous amount of spaces, and one project is not going to solve that. So we need to look at a variety of projects. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay, Councillor Brown.
Sorry, I just forgot one thing. I would hope that in our conversation with the school district, we could consistently let them know that we would like to keep the youth center space, that is also childcare space, and it's a really important childcare space. It is free, it is accessible, it is reaching vulnerable children. And that is unlike anything else we have in the village. It is the only thing that addresses kids, vulnerable kids in the village. So let's try and work that into the whole childcare thing up there, application.
Yes, I think it's an issue that we've talked to the school board before, and they've assured us they have no problems with it, but we have to keep reminding them, neither do we. So what is your pleasure on moving forward? And yes.
So do you need a motion from us on the recommendations, or do we?
Yes, the one
Please.
is to, do we want to write a letter of support for the Weird Church, in that we're only supporting the daycare component of them having daycare in that building. They still have all the requirements that they have to meet if they are successful. They have to go through the process and meet all the regulations from the ministries and from the village.
Yeah, I'm not super attached to it being a daycare. I would just want to see if they're revising their application, then let's see what they want to do, and then we can write them a letter of support. You know, I don't think they're going to make the November 1st deadline as it stands, because the project's going to have to change. So can we wait on that one and make a decision later?
Your worship, I don't believe that this item or this recommendation was just to continue to support their interest in childcare space. So if council wishes to wait at this point in time, I don't think that's an issue. They'll likely want to come back with a new proposal. So if council wishes not to proceed with this until they have further information, that's fine. We can extend that information to them at this time. This isn't based on their application changing. It was just more staff's recommendation that council may wish to, support further childcare creation in the community. But what that is, I don't know what their plans, and likely they'd have to come back anyway.
Okay.
So we want to work with the school district.
Yeah. So do you want me to just try and make a motion? Okay, so that council directs staff to work with School District 71 to identify opportunities to partner in establishing childcare facilities on SD 71 grounds. And that council directs staff to report back regarding possible village policies, which would include incentives for developers to include childcare spaces within new commercial or residential developments, as well as to engage with local developers looking at options relating to securing a village-owned lease space designated for childcare needs. As well, that staff identify possible appropriate village-owned facilities and/or locations to develop and/or utilize as designated childcare space, identify staff and financial resources needed to develop the site, and present to council for consideration for an application to the Childcare BC New Spaces Fund. Did I get everything?
Second that.
Yes, second that. And you understand that we're not supportive of it going on Beaufort at this time unless everything else fails. Okay, could I, yeah, staff understands that? Okay, so all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. That
Mayor,
counts-
Mayor,
Yes?
I think we still want to encourage Weird Church and the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm just trying to think of how we might do that, so not without just leaving
It out.
leaving it out completely. Maybe we could say that we would support them, write a letter of support or encourage them to apply for the nonprofit funding stream of $1 million as opposed to the municipal partnership funding stream of $3 million.
I think that would be very wise to do that, so it doesn't hold them up. Because even there's a great deal of work that needs to be done to the church, but there was daycare in there previously. Apparently some of the rules have changed, so I don't know if they'd even qualify with the building the way it is. They would have to do work. So maybe they need to downsize their project. So I like that idea of making that a motion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay. So does everybody know the motion?
Mhm.
Did staff get
Everybody-
it?
Just staff.
We do here. Yeah, and we can review the video if we don't, but yes, I've made notes. Thank you.
Okay. So
No,
all in
agreed.
favor? So all in favor? Carried. Thank you. That, very well done. The council received the BC Hydro Street Light Replacement Program report.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried.
All right. Hello again. So BC Hydro is moving forward with a conversion of their leased lights. And so I guess I should be clear in this. The leased lights are the ones that are on the wooden poles and within Cumberland and around the province. So we have our own lights that are on metal bases, typically through new subdivisions. But there are a number of lights in the community, numbers in the report there, on wooden poles that we pay a fee to Hydro for. So Hydro is updating these mainly because of PCBs, but there's a bunch of other reasons as well listed in the report. And they are going to start this program actually November. It's going to be about a 3-year program. I think they're estimating they'll be completed with the conversions by 2023 throughout the province. And right now they're seeking feedback from municipalities and some private sector companies that they also lease lights to on the style of LED light, or the intensity, I guess. It's called Kelvins. So there's been a bunch of larger municipalities that have already converted their own personal street lights over. And it looks like, and of course, LED lighting has improved over the last number of years. Some of the more intense LED street lights had a bluer hue to them. And I think a lot of people, they weren't a real true light. So there's been a lot of improvements with LED lights, but some of the studies these municipalities have done have resulted in the use of 3,000 Kelvin lights in residential areas, and they do meet dark sky policies. And then 4,000 Kelvin LED lights in industrial commercial areas or arterial roads, basically because of the better lighting for road safety purposes or for safety purposes at night. So really what we're looking for is council's direction on what they'd like to see throughout the community. The other option is not to provide feedback to Hydro, and of course they'll just they'll use their own discretion to install the lights. And in the discussions I've had, they would use similar to what the recommendations are: 3,000 for residential and 4,000 for probably probably in the report there, the 74 150 watt HPS lights is probably what they would convert to the 4,000 Kelvin. There's some photos there you can reference, the different light intensities. You can see with the 3,000 Kelvin picture A there, it still has a bit of an orange hue, not like the old high pressure sodium lights there on the left. And then picture B with the 4,000 Kelvin. You can see how it's more of a daylight type white. Now they are all a flat lens, so there is less light spillage with these new LED lights, which helps. And I think that's basically it. Any questions council has, I'd be happy to answer.
Councillor Sproul?
Yeah, don't we have language in the OCP about dark sky policies we'd be going against if we went for the 4,000? I don't know. I guess we can amend what we have.
Well, I think, yeah, and I think that's more intended for development. I mean, when you start talking streets, I think safety takes a precedent over dark sky policies. But again, that's council's discretion. My recommendation is always, you know, from an engineering operations perspective, would always be to follow the standard, I guess, ensure road safety.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, so I did some research today around LED lights and the impact on particularly insects and bats, but also birds and amphibians. I think that our arterial roads, if I understand which ones they are, like all of them, or certainly Comox Lake Road and Royston Road and Cumberland Road all go by wetlands. And so having that increased light is going to have a huge impact on the insects and other creatures that live there. I also found research that contraindicated the safety of additional lighting, that it has not shown over the long term to necessarily be any safer, to be brighter. So my suggestion would be to not use the 4,000 Kelvin lights, but to stick to 3,000, and also to specifically request yellow, green, and amber LED lights versus blue-white LED lights, because the blue-white are most harmful to wildlife and the other species that we share our space with. Yeah, I mean, it looks like broad daylight in the photo of the street with the, so I know our residents don't want any brighter lights in their neighborhoods because it disrupts sleep, and lots of us have lighting on our homes for safety. So the less light pollution we have, the better, is my thought on that.
Councillor Kettler?
Well, I appreciate the research of Councillor Brown. Yeah, I didn't do the research, but I did come to the same conclusion, just because basically if you're meeting the safety standard with the 3,000 rather than 4,000, then it doesn't seem like there would be a need to have it any brighter. And just from an aesthetic point of view, you know that most people don't really like those bright white lights. You know, even headlights on cars, you know, it's often quite annoying when you have those really white bright lights on vehicles. So I think I came to that same conclusion of the preference of the 3,000 Kelvin as well.
Okay. Well, I must admit, I didn't do the research that you did, but I came up to the set 3,000. The glare of the lights at night, it is disturbing. And I think that people would like to see the glare go down a lot. I'm sorry, Councillor Sullivan, did I ask you for your input?
Nope.
I'll ask you now.
Yeah, I support the less light, the better. I'm definitely looking forward to this. The ballast outside my house is maybe the loudest thing ever. I'm not sure why that is, but it's an incredibly loud, high-pitched noise. I have a question for Rob. Isn't there an increased span with these lights? So would that mean like a reduction in the necessity of the amount of posts and the amount of lights physically? Is that, or is it just straight up replacing them?
No, I don't even know that the existing lights provide the light coverage for streets per MMCD standards. So I don't think there's going to be any reduction. They're just a flatter lens, so they just direct more light down onto the street and less spillage out the sides.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm into the 3,000. Less bright, the better. Just as long as it meets the safety standards, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. And I will say the ones that every person on our block complains about the lights flashing. They seem to hit everybody's bedroom and they shine very brightly. So they'll be really pleased about this. So can we move forward with a motion?
So I'll move that council approve the use of 3,000 Kelvin LED street lights for local and collector arterial streets, and that further that staff request or ask Hydro for yellow, green, or amber colored LED lights, if at all possible.
Seconder, Councillor, all in favor? Carried. Next, we go into bylaws. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you.
We have the first bylaw recommendation.
I'll move that council give second and third reading to permissive tax exemption 2021 bylaw number 1135 2020.
Seconder,
Second.
all in favor? Carried. Next, recommend that council receive animal control bylaw additional amendments report.
Move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. James is on. Appropriate timing. You got a dog bark there.
I'm recognized apparently. Good evening, your worship and councillors. So animal control is brought to your attention and the committee of the whole back in February, March time, sometime that area. It was brought back to staff and asked for us to do some additional review and some amendments of the animal control bylaw and bring it back to you guys for the first reading. So we've reviewed it. We've come up with a couple other things. It was mostly a housekeeping scenario. However, we've made some additional amendments and changes as some different circumstances arise. Some changes have happened since the last bylaw as well too. Biggest things is some things we've been enabled a section in there where manager of protective services can have some additional requirements for dogs that are being problematic, to say the least. We've changed some of the fees around as well too to make it more applicable to the situations and stuff, such as if we end up impounding a dangerous dog, we have to take it all the way down to Duncan. So that's a pretty hefty fee just due to the cost of staff time, stuff like that. So that's what we've kind of done and moved some things around. We're bringing it to your attention now for possible readings. Is there any questions?
Question, Councillor Brown?
It looks really good, James. Thank you. My only question is about the increase in so under general dog impoundment fees.
Okay.
The first your first dog catch or impoundment is $50 and the second one used to be $80. It's jumping to $180. That's a big jump. So I'm just wondering, do you how many impoundments do we get? Like how often does it happen that somebody gets multiple impounds on a dog?
It's
How
pretty
li-
rare. It's pretty rare, to be honest, because quite honestly, most of the time, especially if they have a dog license, we return their dog for them free first time, especially if they have dog license, maybe a second time. So the actual second and subsequent offenses isn't too often. However, we've had, unfortunately, more than 2 people within the village where there'll be a single summer where we take their dog back to them 20 times.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so, and each time I go back to the SPCA, by the time I drive down there, put the dog off, and this is during business hours, which is even easier, and then do the paperwork, come back, you're talking 2.5, 3 hours of my time.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it takes quite a bit. And then if it's at night because RCMP has picked it up for some reason, now I have to open up the building, go through keys, codes, all that sort of fun stuff. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions? Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, thanks, James. I'm curious, has the situation ever come up where the fencing has had to be forced on people to build new fencing?
Unfortunately, we currently have 2 files like that where the dog is supposedly an in-house dog, never gets out. However, the dog's still getting out, and the one off most recently, there's severe injuries to the dog inflicted, and it's not the first time. And unfortunately, the way the bylaw is written currently, without these amendments, is basically as long as the person says the dog is a house dog and staying inside, we can't force a fence upon the person. This will make that change there where we can say, nope, it's still getting out. You're putting a fence up.
So they can just make a little dog run kind of thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
and we've specifically put it to, the way we word it was so that it was to the definition of an enclosure, or to a lesser degree, which allows flexibility for the manager of protection to, if they want to do just a small little box on their property or a dog run, as you're saying, and not necessarily enclose the entire property.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Sproul, you had a question? Your mic's off.
No, I'm happy that you've thought it all through, and this, you know what needs to be done. So thank you.
Councillor Kettler?
Nope, my questions have been answered. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I like the way you've taken the lead by wanting to protect the dog. I think that's really positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then we have a motion there.
I'll move the council give first, second, and third reading to animal control amendments bylaw number 1134, 2020.
Seconder,
Seconded.
all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
James.
Thanks, James.
Notice, motions, and announcements. Village Hall meeting October the 5th, 2020 at 7 p.m. by registration to info@cumberland.ca. Also, a public hearing for the new fire hall property on October the 19th at 7 p.m. at Cumberland Recreation Center. This will be a first. It's going to be interesting to see how we conduct it.
And
Yeah.
the village hall meeting is in person as well at the cultural center?
Yes, it's open to the public.
Okay.
Yes. Next question period. So if
All
anybody
right, was that the CRI, Councillor Brown?
Yes,
Yeah.
Cumberland Recreation Center is the public hearing.
Okay,
And the village hall.
is
yes.
in the CRC.
Uh-oh, Clayton.
Wait a minute. Village Hall meeting, where will that be held?
That hasn't been determined yet. We're just
Oh.
in the process. So yeah, that's the public hearing's been determined, but the other site is in the works there. Well, as soon as we have a location, we'll let you know.
Thanks
Okay,
for that.
thank you. Okay, now it's time for question period. And please send your email to info@cumberland.ca and hit the line question period. I did receive 2 questions and they both pertain to Weird Church. And I think through the discussion and our emotions, those 2 questions were answered. And I will contact the individual to make sure that his questions were answered appropriately. If not, I'm sure he'll tell me. And so we need to wait a bit for the others.
Hi, Mayor Baird.
Yes?
We have no other questions.
Okay. All right. So we need to close and adjourn open meeting.
I'll move that personal information, that council close and adjourn the meeting to the public pursuant to section 90 of the community charter to consider personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or other position appointed by the municipality.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Carried and adjourned of closed portion. Oh, sorry. Now we go into closed session.
Okay.
So moved. Yeah, we're moved. Bye.
We have to get out.